Hello and welcome to another episode of Minnesota Liberty Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Rebecca Whiting. And I guess forgot to mention, this is sponsored by the Libertarian Party of Minnesota. I'm one of your hosts, Rebecca Whiting, although I already said that. Now, tonight I have with me TJ Hawthorne and Jeremy, who is one of our guests, but also a Minnesotan up in Duluth. So we're kind of all over the place. Yeah, because I'm up north. I guess, Jeremy, you're technically kind of north, but not as north as I am. And then
yeah,
TJ's
been up that way, just not. I just don't live up that way.
You dang Yankees!
Not as far as up way. You're gonna have to try harder to be more north. So, anyways, tonight, the State of the Union address was last night. Some of us watched most of it. Some of us watched. TJ, did you watch any of it? I can't remember.
A little bit. Rob Bernstein had it going with Clint Russell and Brian McWilliams. They were commenting and stuff, so it was fun to listen to their BS. But
yeah,
it's so annoying. Go up and down, up and I can't take that. It's so dumb.
You know, so in the Army, I had an NCO that was always like, "Oh, the dog and pony show," like hated the formalities and now you gotta stand up and clap, and now you gotta sit down, and now you gotta it's like trained horses. Like that's circus animals. That's what I thought. Like, oh, now we're gonna stand again and clap, and now half of that State of the Union was just them clapping for themselves.
Yeah, and see Trump was like.
Yeah,
and the time when he's calling out like they didn't stand, if you don't stand for this, then you should be ashamed, whatever. And it's like
it's the best ever. Everybody's just tired of winning, and they're like, Trump, I'm so tired of winning. I don't know.
I will say it was probably. I've said this about a few of the speeches before, but I don't think this one was any different. When I really kind of walked away and I was like, wow, this is just another one of the most self-filleting types of events I've ever seen in my entire life. It just is like the perpetual congratulatory spectacle. And it's like, okay, like that's great, but like, let's see the hard figures. Let's see you back it up. And it's just like, it seems like every single time it's always in like some vague terms. I mean, before we started, it seemed like when we were talking some of the figures, it's just like, where are you even getting some of these figures? And it's like, well, probably from the backside, because I think you don't have to be a mathematician to be like, this really is not adding up. Well,
I think somebody that sounds smart could say something to Trump and he'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And he would repeat it. And he had no idea what the hell, if it was good or not really.
Yeah.
Gas at this price or inflation. Here's the thing, inflation rate. Okay. That means it's always going up. It's never.
Yeah.
A zero would be, this is what your dollar is worth today. And tomorrow it's going to be worth the same. So that's the only time it would be the same is if it's at zero.
So 2.7% right now. That's 2.7%. It's never going to go back down.
Exactly.
And so this is like a steady, we're just climbing up the ladder, and it's never going to go back down.
Right.
So you guys, this isn't a win. This is a chronic and constant loss. It's your money is worthless. It's becoming more worthless every month. So, and one of the things he talked about was the price of gas. Where you guys live, what is the price of gas? Because he said it was below $2 in some states. I think he said $2.30 in most states. Yeah. What's it where you guys live?
I'd say since I was like 40, I don't pay attention. It's like whether
it's right there on the gas.
No, because I need gas. I'm going to get gas, and it's okay. At the end of the fill up, I see if it's $50 to $60 to $40, and that's how I measure it. I honestly, I'm not ever going to say if it's $2.50 over that side of town and it's $2.45 over this side of town, I'm going to go over there and spend 10. I know
people that do it.
To each their own. That's fine if you feel that way.
So, but I don't know, like, I'm the kind of person that when I go to the gas pump, I'm like, all right, I've got $40 I can spend on gas. Yeah, I'm paying attention to how much that gas.
I get it.
Oh, for sure.
I know this is it's the first world problem that I don't have. You know what I mean? I guess that's pinky's up to me. I don't know, but I know that if I've got $100 or $200 in my checking account, it's not gonna take that much to fill up my exploder.
Yeah.
So
well, and I bought diesel on Monday. It was $4 a gallon for number one diesel, which is going to be more than number two diesel still, but $4 a gallon. That's how much it cost. It cost me $100 to fill up our truck, our farm truck.
Yeah. Yeah. I know down by me, I buy the Gucci 91 because my truck tends to like it a lot more. I get more bang for my buck. So I think I'm paying
you,
somewhere.
Jeremy.
What's that?
You got pinkies up too, then, probably.
Oh, dude, I don't know. Like I said, I'm Gucci that way, but so I think that's still like somewhere around like 370, 375. It's higher up there. I know, the lower grade, the lower to mid grade is somewhere between like still like 325 and like 350, I think. So it's not great, but yeah, I mean, I still remember when it was like sub 3, sub 2.5. I mean, I'm not like super old. I'm only going to be 33, but it's still like there were times to where gas was still way lower than what it is now, and it baffles the mind how we've even gotten here. And especially during the State of the Union, he was bragging. I do have a figure here. I schizophrenically scribbled down a bunch of notes.
Nice.
Just in the hopes that I was.
He's the one that watched the whole thing. I got about
worse.
I did get into it quite a ways, but eventually I was like, I can't anymore. I've seen
full disclosure. It was the worst 2.5 hours of my entire life. I probably could have solved some actual problems. But he's talking about gas and he's talking about all this, and then he brings up the oil from Venezuela, and he's just like, We've gotten $80,000 or 80 million gallons coming from Venezuela. It's going to be huge. We're up 600,000. And it's
best ever. People are tired of winning.
Oh, dude, it is insane. And what people don't even realize is the stuff from Venezuela is so rough that in order to process this stuff, it takes more effort to process the crude out of Venezuela than it does in some other places. So it's like he's chalking this up as a victory, but it's like, dude, even if we got whatever, it's like you're still going to have such an extenuated process just to get it to where it needs to be.
I don't even feel like talking about how crude or how hard it is to process someone else's oil. It's like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. I don't know when that happened, how long ago it was. It's just another fly-by-the-night news thing that happened. And a leader of a country just got kidnapped by our country. And anyways, and now all of a sudden that oil we're pumping oil out of the. So like, what were the motives? And I remember when Iraq, it was like, it's all for the oil. And back in my neocon days, I was like, no, those people are evil. We need to go get them. And I honestly don't see them other than saying that part out loud. Like, it is for the oil. Yeah. God, okay, that's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we're not even like discussing the ethics on how they acquired this oil.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I mean.
You can't just go in and depose a country's leader and kidnap them and blow their people up and kill their citizens and then call that a win. I'm just, didn't he campaign on not starting more wars? And I'm sure that people will be like, oh, well, it wasn't, because they are saying this. It wasn't a war, this military action. This wasn't a war. And it only wasn't a war because they didn't have the capacity to fight back.
Yeah.
That's why it wasn't a war. So basically the bullies on the playground came in and steamrolled a weaker country, stole their leader. And we don't need to even debate whether he was good leader or bad leader. I think we can all agree he was probably a bad leader. But that tends to be what if your country has a president or a king or a dictator or whatever it is, typically they're more likely bad than good.
Yeah.
It's just not our place to come in and then take their oil to Qatar and build, make, like, just, what are we doing? What are we doing?
It's not we, right? I honestly don't feel like it's any of the we,
but it's
the people
being done
at all
in
anymore.
our names. That's the problem.
Of course, yeah.
It's being done in our names.
Has been for so long, and folks nowadays are apathetic and say, well, it's been this way for so long. It's like, yeah, so we need to stop doing the wrong thing.
Right.
When do we stop doing the wrong thing?
At some point, this has to stop being okay. We need to hold our people, the leaders in our country, the people who we vote in, to a higher standard than we hold our trash collector. Why don't we?
Right. Well, what was interesting about the whole Venezuela thing too is, like, it seemed like he tied the whole Venezuela thing in with, I don't remember if it came before or if it came after it. It was such a insane thing to watch. But at some point near the Venezuela thing, he was like, oh, and like fentanyl's down by like 56%. And it's just like, my dude, like, everybody knows that fentanyl is not being cranked out by Venezuela. Right. Okay. Like,
and that was a very specific number.
It was a hyper specific number. And it's like, if anything, and I'm not going to sit here and advocate for this, but if you were to make an argument today, right now, about fentanyl, all you have to do is look at Puerto Vallarta right now and be like, hey, the people that are tearing up Mexico, those are the guys that are probably cranking out your fentanyl more than anything else. But, it's like, we can't talk about that, that's a whole other, bag of fun, because the more and more I start hearing about it, we were involved in killing the guy over there with the Mexican military. So it's like, where does it end? It's
just sprawled all over the place, man. And a lot of it began right there with that drug money. And
100%.
And look at, I don't know if it's not full circle, but Jeffrey Epstein was, cut his teeth in that whole cocaine and Iran Contra stuff, and the all that crap in the Latin America. And I don't really know all the details. I just know that it just was a bunch of dumb stuff that for power, and it doesn't seem like it's changed. And it's like you said, Rebecca, this is Trump ran on this and that, and cutting spending, no more new wars. The Maha movement all of a sudden has been hijacked and taken over too, right? Like,
because now weed killers are national security. Yeah. And what that we need a whole episode for that. And because what this does is it gives Bayer Monsanto immunity.
Yeah, like the vaccine.
Now that there are lawsuits that prove that the weed killer causes cancer, and it's in our water supply. Like, even if you buy things organic off the shelf at the store, did you know you're still allowed to have organic, suppliers and producers are still allowed to have a certain percentage of weed killer and these forever chemicals in their final product. So there is no such thing in the United States as truly organic, and this is literally poisoning multiple generations of Americans and making people chronically sick. So I know, and we've had discussions, TJ, about weed killer and agriculture and those kinds of things. So I'm all for, we should just ban it. Other countries have banned it. At the very least, be working towards or incentivizing, because their agriculture has a dependency. And this isn't what we meant to talk about. This is just totally you got me started. So I'm not gonna be able to move on to get this out. Right? But at the very least, incentivizing these big corporate farms to be lessening their dependency on these forever chemicals so that there is an end game to getting out of them. Because I think if you're poisoning the food supply, that's a clear violation of the NAP. And there is no way out of it. You can't get away from it without just getting rid of it.
If I can add something here, also that, there's been more and more coming out about microplastics. There's basically nobody that exists currently or presently, at least to my understanding, at least this is what I've heard, that does not have some amount of microplastics in their system. And what you're starting to see with this is, as time has gone on, there's been studies and research that's being done for like testosterone levels in males to where that's drastically been just destroyed. I mean, you're talking over 100% drop in somewhere between 10 to 15 years. It's like super, super drastic. You're looking at escalating infertility rates. You're looking at the ability for people to not even have children. If it's, not to get crazy here, but like with their partner or IVF or whatever the case, like it's becoming a serious issue to the point to where they're these elites or whatever you want to call these people, they're boxing themselves in to a certain degree because at some point they too are going to be exposed to the same thing. So they're basically cutting their own lineage off by trying to play this game of like, we're going to get rid of the peasants. It's like, well,
we're the carbon they want to reduce.
Yeah, it's and it's like, yeah, but like nobody is above the microplastics. Nobody's above the toxicity. I don't care how scrubbed your environment is, eventually you have to go outside. And at some point you're going to get that exposure. And so, I don't know what their long game is. I don't know what they think that they're going to benefit from. Yeah. But in the end of the day, like it's going to come back around. And so it's beneficial to everybody, including these people that want to remain in power, to be like, hey, maybe we should probably reduce the amount of crap that we're putting in food because we're killing our own, legacy. It's like, well, if I'm going out, I'm taking you with me.
That's part of it. That's how I don't really understand the logic of this whole thing, unless there's something more behind it that they know that we don't. And we're just a bunch of talking heads on the computer right now, and that's fine.
Hey, maybe we're all fake.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm fake and I don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the State of the Union. If somebody wants to go and watch this, you can listen to Trump say this. More power to you. I did try to go back and find the link so I could like put it on the screen and we could watch him say it. But I transcribed it, so feel special. And it's right at the 29-minute mark, right? Of the, depending on what video you watch. But I wanted to draw attention to this because there's a lot of claims in here that are quite loaded. And so if we're looking for content tonight, I've got a few ideas. Anyways, I'm going to read this quote from Trump.
Let's get loaded.
Yeah. So from 1776 to today, every generation of Americans has stepped forward to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, not bad. That's not bad. Yeah. And they are really doing it for the next generation. But now it's our turn. Together we are building a nation where every child has the chance to reach higher and go further, where the government answers to the people and not the powerful, where the interests of hardworking American citizens are always our first and ultimate concern. That is the debt we owe to the heroes that came before us, and that is the promise we must keep to Americans in our 250th year.
I'm so happy you brought that up because I wrote that down too.
Yeah, that was a good one. I heard him say it. I went back and I was like, did he? He did, didn't he?
The statement of irony.
Yeah. So let's just talk about that because as a side thing, because of what we do for, through the LPMN, sometimes we meet people. I'm sure TJ, you have these experiences also. But when we're, dealing with politics, the system, and, people like us are going to be the ones that are willing to address the injustice, address the concerns, address the dysfunction of the system, and talk about it in a way that where we would focus more on dismantling broken systems or reforming them. And so when that happens, and you're those kinds of people are very comfortable coming to you with instances of injustice that they have experienced firsthand at the hands of the government. And I had one of those, I'm not going to like names or any of that kind of stuff right now, but I'm like, there's a, I don't know, he's really just a kid. Like he's went through some things at the hands of our government. And I'm actually really worried about like what he's going to do next, because
you got it.
He's not good. He's not good. And so like the claims that America's winning and everybody's tired of winning, you only believe that because you haven't left your echo chamber and gotten your hands dirty down in the gutters with the rest of us because of a situation that you helped create and have absolutely no incentive to try and fix. That's why you believe that.
Yeah.
And it's false.
And anyone, there are a lot of Americans that still hold those pom-poms for Trump, and when he says these kinds of things, because they've never been impacted, or people they either still hold that it hasn't impacted them enough, that person personally, or someone they love and care for, that they realize what it is, or what I really think, the education, man, like. I hate using the word. I don't think I've ever used it until just now. Like systematically, right? Like the education system. People really believe that the government is there to save them, and so when it fails, they need more government. Like when it fails, they think, "Oh no, we need more of it." Then that's literally just how people think, and so it has to snap. We're tumbling down. Like. I don't know if we're past this point, right? Like I said, the people that know things that we don't and doing things that don't make sense right now. But those folks that are impacted, as anecdotal as it may seem, right? That's one person, but that's a whole life. And there's a chain reaction there.
Matters. These people matter.
There's a group
of people. You can't say, well, when we start looking at human lives as simply statistics on paper, we've already lost. But you have to have some sort of commitment to the people around you and believe that they're worth this risk that we're taking. You can't just be like, well, that was one instance, because it's not one. He is one that spoke out. How many people are silent?
Yes. Yeah.
The silence, though, is folks just don't know what to do. They've got folks over here saying we should do this, folks over here saying we should do this, and then there's us saying this is really what we should do. Right? That honestly, there's what's really going on, and nobody's listening to us. 7 people, I think, right now online watching us. So here's the thing.
Because the connection with Twitter is not, or X or whatever it is not working, but it's usually a lot harder. And
so when you've got these two giant sides of making everything political, even though there's help, I'll tell you what, this is very on topic, very similar to what you're saying. The comms group that my campaign manager created, there are a great number of folks all impacted by just family court system.
Yeah.
And that one system alone is not, that doesn't just impact that one person, because then you got 2 kids that then grow up and have this type of impact.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you just scratch the surface, and I'm telling you, you could spin the wheel like it's some wheel of fortune, and any state agency you land on, you're going to find how it impacted negatively, right? Sure, you could find also these anecdotal stories of folks that it did help, but I'm telling you, the state spends and nobody really benefits. Everybody, it lowers the tide. If you want to talk about whatever rises all tides. No, every state spending lowers those tides. And it's crazy how folks just are sold by it. No, we need to spend more. I just can't. We got to stop it or else.
It's that plastic spoon of microplastics in everybody's brains.
Sure. Well, come on. And who knows what to trust nowadays, but they talking about unclassified CIA documents of mind control stuff and the schmeens and whatever. I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I'm just saying what I read, and I don't believe everything I read. I'll tell you what. But
actually, TJ, I know what you watch because you know how on Facebook right now you can just like scroll through those like Facebook reels, and it shows you who likes the comment. And I see how many of those Facebook reels that I watch that you also watch.
Oh,
so I know what you watch. And
Y-Files, man.
Yeah, I love Y-Files. Those are, anyways. I thought about bringing up something I read about or watched in Y-Files this afternoon, and I was like, no, I need to research that first. I probably shouldn't do that.
So I am definitely one of those people that I think about a lot of these conversations, and it seems like it comes back around to a lot of people that participate. How many people participate, who doesn't participate, who's involved, who isn't involved, and I, even on my own show, I've talked to I kind of feel like I bring it up ad nauseum almost every time, but it's just like, look, like if you want to see something change, you have to be willing to go out and be the change that you seek, or be the thing that you want. If you're looking for hope, then maybe you have to go out there and produce that hope. And it's like I have this little pocket constitution. I absolutely love it, right? And so what's great about this one is it actually has a bunch of like quotes by the founders. I think there's a couple pages, and there's a few quotes that I really like, but there is one by Thomas Jefferson in particular that I think really drives home, to this point. And there's one by Daniel Webster, and if it makes sense, I'll get to that one. But, Thomas Jefferson said, we in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. So it's like you sit there and you think about something like that. It's like, look, if you're really that upset, if you're not happy with how something is, if you're not happy with the way things are, if you feel like something isn't right, it probably isn't. But it's like, in the end of the day, it's like to sit there and simply be disagreeable with something. Well, it might be good, to have discourse. You have to eventually take that to ferment that in some type of action, whether that's even just at the basic level in your own town, or whether that's going through your county or your state, or even as far up as you want to go. But in the end of the day, like, we all have the potential to play a part here. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I've studied this stuff for a while. That was kind of the founders' expectations, was, you have this realm to where so many people in the last several years, the last 5, 6, 7 years, have all said like, oh, the Constitution failed. It's like, well, if you're saying that, you're not fundamentally understanding how the founders set this up. The Constitution it's a piece of parchment, right? It cannot fail. The people have failed to keep the Constitution. We have failed to be proper stewards of our country, of our states, of our counties, of our towns. That failure to some degree is shared amongst all of us, and it is our, the onus is on us to be able to come forth and to fix that. And when you look at, like the State of the Union in particular, and you look at all of these things, yeah, we 100% can not be satisfied with how Trump has done things. Quite frankly, this is kind of mean. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of mean, but when I saw Kristi Noem do one of her things, I dubbed her the border Barbie, because that's pretty much what she is to me. Yeah. She stands out there, she looks great, and she says things, but it doesn't really mean anything. And it's, and then you have Bondi that runs around, and she just gets hyper defensive. But that was up 50,000, or at least
Blondie.
it was.
Yeah.
You know, you have Hegseth, you have all of these people that, have come in and said, we're going to make this drastic change. They're not doing it. And when we see that, we have to be willing to try and do something about it. I guess that's my point. So if you're not happy with what you see in the State of the Union, now is the time for us, especially as we're coming to, the state races and the local races and stuff like that. We have to be willing to mobilize to make that difference, because if we don't, then it doesn't matter how unhappy you get, you're still going to have the same people that will rip you off time in and time out. So I always go back to the founders. They're not perfect people. They made mistakes. They certainly, they had their hands caught in the cookie jar. Washington on his deathbed even admitted that, what he did during the Whiskey Rebellion was a very regrettable thing. And if he could have gone back, he would have done it differently. But we can't continue to expect something to change if we continue to perpetuate the same cycle. So I don't know. They were kind of smart guys. I don't know, but.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
That's my tirade. Sorry.
Yeah, brilliant, but flawed. And we can, and that's, I think when I talk to people about like libertarian philosophy and running for office and, all of these kinds of things, I let them know, like, because I hate the libertarian purity test, right? I hate it.
Yeah.
But, we are just people trying to make good decisions, based off of an understanding of philosophy that is often counterculture to what we've grew up in. And, so there's got to be room for people in general to make mistakes. Now, if those mistakes are costing people their lives, their jobs, their futures, there needs to also be a method for accountability. Because that's there, the responsibility of being in leadership means that the consequences of good decisions are often going to be overlooked, but the consequences of bad decisions really do hurt everyone.
Absolutely.
And, so when you go into leadership, you need to understand that's just the way it is, and accept it. But it also should help leaders. And this is one of the things, like, I feel like I've tried to do, is surround myself with people that are not just patting me on the back and saying, hey, good job all the time, like people that are willing to argue with me and willing to give a different perspective, because sometimes you're just wrong, and George Washington,
well, the self-reflection and the ability to recognize when you're wrong is huge, and admit it. That's real. It's never been that hard for me. I feel like, but everybody might say that about themselves. That even though they're the people that are always right. I've been told that before. That my ex-wife used to say, "You're always right about everything." It's like, okay, well, then prove me wrong, I guess. Let's have a discussion about it. Don't just walk away in disgust. And it's like, well, I don't understand that argument. And talking about whatever issue, whatever. The thing is, when it comes to state issues, and I don't mean like state Minnesota, but state government, state stuff, like I said before, the folks just assume that the state is there to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So I have a problem. Well, I better go talk to my state rep or talk to my senator or talk to my whoever. And it's like, wait, what? Talk to your community, your neighbor or whatever, your friends are. Now, here's the thing with society nowadays, a lot of folks don't have friends and don't make friends with their neighbors or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They can be totally connected through this window right here with whoever randomly they think that whoever that is, or I think that's one part of our disconnect in society.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. So Oh no, there's a comment on here. I'm like, I'm not going to show that, but I don't think they understand the situation.
Is it the Twitch comment that came through, or
I think they understood?
I think there was a comment that was funny earlier, but
yeah.
TC likes to pick in there, and I smile at him and ignore him. So, what else happened at the State of the Union that I can remember? I guess, he recognized the hockey team, gave the Medal of Freedom to
the goalie.
Connor, the goalie. I'm not really sure what that Medal of Freedom is. It's just kind of a geedunk thing that they can give out to anybody, right? It's arbitrary.
It's decoration. And it makes a good story for your grandkids someday.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If you don't have microplastics.
Well, and if he doesn't need that, you already have the story. I mean, he won the gold medal with that team in that awesome game.
I have an interesting story about that. So my uncle was on Hockey Team USA in '92, I think. Yeah. So
your uncle was where?
He was the hockey goalie at the Olympics in '90.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's weird. Very cool.
Didn't know you were friends with somebody so closely related to somebody that was famous, did you?
Now, the only thing I will say is, so when I bought my house, I actually bought it from one of the guys who was part of the Olympic curling team, and I got to hold his gold medal. So, dude, that thing is so freaking heavy. It's crazy. You could knock somebody out with that. That's cool. Is insane. That is insane.
Yeah, and because where we live up north, it's almost. Is there anybody from Duluth on the curling team this year? Because
I don't know.
There's somebody from Bemidji, but I don't believe there is this time.
So I don't think the guy that I bought my house from, he's from Duluth. I don't think he competed this year.
Pretty sure one of the Coreys were, though, in that Corey, that guy girl team that won the silver, or
sure.
I think one of them or both of them, they have some connection to Duluth. I know. Okay. Pretty sure that's the case. I guess I know that I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I can't. It sounds really bad. I'm from the area, and I can't even tell you. I spend less time trying to chase.
Yeah, it's curling. I mean,
it's curling. Who cares?
It's cool. Every 4 years, it really is cool. Yeah. I mean, I was watching that instead of the Super Bowl when it was on. Like,
dude, it's actually difficult. It's a difficult sport.
Yeah,
like it's. But I don't know. It was kind of cool. I was like, oh wow, like Olympic gold. That's pretty awesome. And it's like thing was like 5 pounds. It's like, this is insane. He actually brought it to the closing for our house. So
how about this? Wild. Let's get back to politics, but same with the Olympic gold medal team. Who was in the locker room? Do you guys see who was in the locker room chugging beers with the team afterwards?
Good old Patty Patel.
Yeah, Cash Patel was just chugging and singing along, putting the gold medal on.
Patel.
And and here's the thing, man. Like, I've got a lot of righty friends that are like, "What the fuck? That's awesome. He should be able to do that." And I do think that would be totally cool if he was arresting people and doing the things that he said. Like, okay, a year and a half before he got that job, I thought it would be way cool if he would be there, because he was like, oh my God, he's about to do this. This guy's about to do this. This is really going to happen. And and then he gets to go F that. F that. Yeah. He blew it. And I'm pissed at him and F that.
There was, I think that the last year has just been a lesson of balancing disappointments. What could have been really good, and I think, when was it that you realized that it wasn't ever going to be? At what point in the last year?
It was the Cash and Bongino interview. He did it. He cut himself. I saw the file. Right then, it was like,
Or Trump saying, why are we still talking about this Epstein
that
guy?
moment too.
I realized then, I was like,
okay,
they're complicit. They're probably in those files. They're never going to let them go willingly, and it's over. Like, if you don't follow through with that one thing, everything else is compromised. Everything.
You know what I think is the most important thing that's in there that has been scrubbed and is not in there that has been released is about 9/11. I bet you all the truth about 9/11 are in that files, in those files, and they're not going to give them, or they've been deleted now, right? This is the national security stuff. If everybody was enlightened about 9/11, about what I believe I know, I mean, you don't have to. Anyways, we don't have to go too far into this, but I'm saying I think that's the big one. Aliens.
Oh yeah, and I guess apparently. Oh, well, I just want to jump in here real quick. Apparently, Trump announced that aliens were real. That didn't even like make the top 10 in the news.
Every time it comes out, like in 2018, I think they've tried to, or 2020, they were trying to be like aliens or something.
Right.
I'm not gonna believe it until they produce like the State of the Union, and they have an alien that they introduce and give a medal to or something. Like, oh, we made contact. Here they are, and that there's some sort of. Until that happens, I don't believe it.
Right.
That's where we're at.
Yeah. It is amazing. So now you just don't know what the distraction is, because, I keep hearing that we've got just as much payload and munitions and firepower and manpower in the Persian Gulf or in the Middle East area.
To be holding up. If they're, they're not going to be surprised, so there's time and planning what could be happening. And I only say this because, like, this used to be what I did, this kind of stuff, is that they could be getting, they'd be getting their infantry divisions ready for invasion. They would be building up the Navy off the coasts. Think of shock and awe in Iraq. That didn't happen overnight. Eventually they got to get all their, resources into position before they're going to do anything. And that does take time. It actually doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take time. And so, if they're going to do something like that, you're looking at, I would say, third ID, second ID, first ID, third ACR. Like there's 5 or 6. 10th Mountain. They'd probably want 10th Mountain. 82nd. At least one of the brigades of 82nd, 101st. I mean, if they're actually going to do this with Iran, that's a lot of coordinating.
Yeah.
And at this point, they've already bombed Iran. I mean, remember in October? Yeah. Was that last October? It wasn't when they bombed Iran, and they were like, "Oh, now we're good." Well, apparently, and who could have guessed that wasn't going to be good enough? But so I don't know. I always think, like, I was kind of expecting them to talk a little bit more about Iran at the State of the Union.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So maybe it's still, they're still trying to be low key, and I don't know. But they also, like, there's a lot of criticism right now from Congress, fortunately.
Yeah, there's no support for it. Like, he wouldn't mention it because
well, and that's the thing, is that, like, 9/11 and going into Afghanistan, you had widespread support from Americans for something to happen after 9/11. We now know that invading Afghanistan wasn't the answer.
You know what I'd like to know, even though, like, in 91 and whatever, when Desert Storm kicked off, we already had, and we, all those bases that we built during whenever I'm saying, like, I would like to know what kind of buildup there was in 2001 prior to 9/11, or I guess actually it wasn't until 2003 when we actually did stuff. So it was that was the buildup.
Yeah, well, in Iraq it was 2003, but we already had bases.
I'm mostly saying because I'm waiting any day now for the false flag of what 9/11 was the false flag to begin to kick off this war on terror.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to just invade Iran like they did Afghanistan and expect the full support, the popular support of Americans like they would have had.
Right. No, they're going to need something. And I think I'm afraid of the worst, but we'll see.
Well, one thing that's interesting to me is when I took time to listen to the State of the Union. He was going through it. He's solved 8 wars. It's so great.
Did you bring that up again?
At one point, he was just like, India and Pakistan could have gone nuclear, but it didn't because I stepped it. It's the most schizophrenic thing in the world. It's like, dude, just calm down. All right, just take a breath. But I do kind of get this sense that he 100% needs like these wins, right? Which they're not wins to us, but like he needs something that I think that he can chalk up as a definitive victory, because I really do think, I think the Russia-Ukraine thing is really a kryptonite to him, because he thought that he could walk in there, solve that problem immediately, because I think he thought that, me and Putin, we're great friends. It's like, what? Like, you're barking up the wrong tree, dude. Like, the amount of trust that the Russians have with us is none. Like, they started to figure out that you can't trust the Americans for anything.
Well, zero's not even low enough at this point.
Right. Well, and it's like, you take what happened last year, and they were bombing the people that were negotiating various deals. I think it was Iran, and then they made it a point to even some of the Gaza negotiators, if I remember correctly. So like they just went in and they just started killing all these people, and it's like, well, like any potential talking points or leverage that you thought you might have had with like the Ukraine thing is like starting to go away, because all you're doing is expressing like how little people can trust you. And so I think when he looks at Iran, he's like, it's one of those areas that like maybe we could do it like Venezuela. Like he really like hung his hat in the State of the Union on like, we did it so well, like the greatest thing you've ever seen, 3 hours, in fact, and it's like, I think he really needs something, I don't want to say easy, but something that he feels is going to be attainable. Because I think that the Russia-Ukraine thing is really like a thorn in his foot. I could be totally wrong, but when I look at like the behavior and you look at all the delegations they send over there, and they think that like, I think like 8 times now he's like, I thought we had a deal. I thought we had a deal. It's like, dude, you're not even listening to what the other side is saying. So you're crazy. But I think overall, he has this notion inside of his head that if he can seal the Iran thing like he did with Venezuela, or allegedly did with Venezuela, that it's something that he can hang his hat on, and he can finally say, look, I did the thing. And because I just don't think that he's convinced that he's going to be able to settle the biggest thorn in his foot.
So here's the thing, like looking at the timeline, right?
Yeah.
Midterms are in November. Are we still in February? Yeah, we're still in February.
Yeah.
March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So, 8 months away, because it's at the beginning of November, right? Yeah. With everything that's going on right now, Trump has caused a lot of people to have voters regret, right? There's a lot of people that are like, oh shoot, this is not, and maybe they'll still like rationalize it in their minds, not my mind. I voted for Chase Oliver. Anyways, the rationalize it like, oh well, it would have been better than a Harris presidency.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to have a hard time convincing everybody that what is currently going on is better than hypothetically what could have been.
For sure. Yeah.
And there's a significant and growing amount of people that don't identify with the right or the left, but they identify independent candidates, or they identify with independent because there isn't a huge availability of minor parties or smaller parties in the United States. And that's the way that they created the system, right? So like that's manufactured. It's not because that's what we want. It's because that's all they allow, right? So you have all of these people that, they, during the last election cycle, were like right or left, which one's the lesser of the two evil. But, we're into all these wars, not wars, we're into like all other stuff that people are like, well, but this isn't good either. You're going to tell me that this is the best you could ever get. And additionally, you have a lot of younger kids, and I say kids like that 20 to 25, 27, 28 age range that absolutely flat out reject their parents' politics.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of room here for growth. I predict that unless something changes, the current path that we are on, the midterms are going to be an absolute bloodbath for the Republicans.
Yeah.
And this creates an opportunity for us because you can't pretend that the Republicans are the alternative against authoritarianism when they're acting like the authoritarians. Like you can't pretend that that's, this is the solution, is to just be bigger authoritarians and cause bigger disruptions and do bigger war, So I think the Republicans are going to lose a lot during the midterms. The Congress could go, the majority of Congress could be Democrats. The majority of the Senate could be Democrats. And if they hold both a majority in Congress and in Senate, guess who's getting impeached again? That's what'll happen, right? Yeah. So he's got to be thinking about that. In fact, he is thinking about that because he's out loud.
Yeah.
He has told people that if you guys don't keep, the majority, they're going to impeach him. He says that.
You think Vance is sitting there like House of Cards? What was that guy? Kevin Spacey? And I don't know if you guys ever watched that, right? I mean, he went from speaker to vice president to president. Man, he worked it out that way, and that's like Vance is setting him up. And now with this, he's the fraud czar. That was a part of the STFU that I heard last night, was Vance is now the fraud czar. It's kind of like when, Kamala was the border czar or something. Did you remember that? She was the border czar.
If they have the numbers in both in the House and the Senate to impeach Trump, impeaching Vance isn't out of the question either.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And then because they've already taken the majority, the House Speaker is going to be a Democrat. Like if I was part of the Democrats, these are the conversations I would be having with my people.
Hey, that only then shows how much a third party is going to be wanted. I think Americans would see that as seriously. Now, I would see that as they're going to take the next 2 years after the midterms to just waste time on impeachment and just a bunch of news and blabbering and blah, 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 and not do anything cool. I like when the government doesn't do anything.
Right.
For the next 2 years after that, no new wars, no new spending bills, because they're so busy with all this impeachment stuff. They don't get anything else done.
Right.
Oh, darn, we just won. Like, this is winning. This is the real. Everybody's tired of winning. Like that's where how we actually win. So I don't know. I'm just, if I was a Republican, and if the Republicans are being really honest with themselves right now, they're going to have to be doing something extraordinary and really like putting, some space in between themselves and Trump to be able to get anything. Because there's not a single Republican's going to make any kind of advances, especially not in contested areas, you know?
Yeah,
so,
we'll see.
Sure.
I mean, I wish going back to what we said before, they've manufactured the third party to not be available option, because I really think, and again, although I thought this since 2016, I really thought people were ready. So it's been 10 years, and maybe we're catching up to where I, believe we are. But
I think that eventually the younger generations that, they had their elementary, especially their high school years, the years where they should have been, post high school, doing well, trying to get out and, get that part of the American dream for themselves. That's just, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as an American dream anymore. It's gone. They regulated it out of possibility. Like, so, you have housing crisis for younger kids. Even if you have, a job and you're working and it's all you do is work, but trying to find pay, rent, or own a home is just out of the question at this point. And so those are things that they're looking at, but they're not putting the blame on just Democrats.
But here's the thing, Rebecca,
they've both had equal control this whole time.
What's our answer to that, though? What's our answer to that?
Oh, to the housing crisis?
Yeah, free. I agree. That I mean, I know what our answer is: free market. Like, free the market, quit taxing the people, let them keep their own money. That I believe is the answer to this. But
and also,
who wants to hear that?
Taking off the regulatory burden.
Yeah.
On people that, would like to seek out their own way, who want to create industry, create business, create, possibility so that they can pursue their own happiness.
Human action, right? That's what it is. It's let them decide what happens in their life.
I think it's interesting too when you take a step back and you look at, I think, I hate to generalize, but I do think that there is a realm too to where people are they've been so shoved into one doctrine of thinking for so long. You see this through school, you see this through a lot of the higher learning institutions, you see this even through just like where you work, right? To this point to where it's just like, look, this is the way that we do things. And if we don't do things, then this whole mechanism is going to fall apart. And if this whole mechanism falls apart, you're never going to be able to find a job, right? Or you're never going to be able to do this. You're never going to be able to do that. You need to have regulation. You need to have controls. You need to have all of this. And so you ultimately, and right, like you see that from like when you first step foot into a school, what's the first thing that they do? They exert a semblance of control, and then they explain it away. Like, if you don't conform to this, then everything else is just going to fall apart. And if you don't follow it, then you're the black sheep of the entire society. And I do think that there's an implied sense of fear that, even as false as it might be, right? But it's like they've done such a good job of convincing people, like, no, there is no other way. Even if you have a model that's very well laid out and you can explain it in layman's terms, people are very, very terrified because they've been convinced, not just over years, but generations. You have family, systems where one generation goes to school, the next generation goes to school. It's taught by the parents, it's taught by the teachers, it's taught by the authority within the areas that you live. Like, this is what you do. And so I think that, I think we all agree, like, yeah, the free market is great, but I also think, I think TJ brought it up, the education issue, and you might have brought it up too, Rebecca. We've gone through a lot, but we do. That is one area that we absolutely need to really focus on, because if we're not getting to people in a certain way towards like, look, like, I understand you have apprehensions about this. I understand that you might not think that this is viable, but here are the potential outcomes that we can possibly see from this that are actually going to give you some of your life back, and that retirement that you want, that you thought you were never going to get, well, this is more of a reality with this system as opposed to the one that we're in. Because as it stands, the one that we're in right now, your own parents aren't even going to get a pension if it keeps going the way that it's going to go, despite what we're told by Republicans, despite what we might be told by Democrats. The reality is it's all running out, and there's nothing that I think is going to be able to replace it, supplement it, whatever. Not that there should be, but we have to find a way to break down that barrier and have an honest conversation, whether it's in a layman's term or whatever that looks like, with people, and say, hey, free markets will actually enable your ability to have a better life. You just have to kind of understand how it works, you know. And it's a hard conversation to have.
I know where we stand, but
yeah,
you guys, when you guys are thinking about your futures, do you see yourselves being able to just retire like your grandparents retired?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, no.
I haven't even thought about it, honestly. Like, it's not one of those things that, to me, as sad as that is, I don't even see that as a possibility. The only way that I could honestly see myself retiring is to hopefully find a good community of people to where we become so, like, we work so well together that we become basically independent of whatever the system is, and we can just fend for ourselves. And, you know, that in and of itself is a sheer undertaking. And I hate to say it, but I shouldn't say there's very few places that offer that, but you almost have to carve out something in like a rural area for you to even have a potential of doing that, because it's just not going to be something you're going to see in a city. And maybe that's,
I don't know, like, when it comes to having like the financial resources, you know, be able to have that nice, comfortable house and just spend all your extra time golfing or whatever. Even if I enjoyed golfing, you know, like, which I don't, it actually sounds quite awful. But
Lindsey Graham might show up at the course. Be careful.
yeah. I mean, you know, my husband and I, we talk about this. Like, our plan for retirement is just to work until we die. Like, that's, you know, and you can't think too much on it, because then you just, like, you don't want to, you know, put yourself into a place where the disappointment becomes too much. So if you never believed that was ever a possibility, then there's nothing to be disappointed about, you know? So, like, that's where we are. And I think that's where a lot of people our age are. And I know I've talked to family that are older that were able to, you know, do that job and then accumulate some, you know, like something on the side, and then be like, all right, this is the magic day, we're never working again. That's not
you know how hard
the rest of us.
I have to imagine, and I guess it's not really a big talking point, but there must be a lot of folks that have retired in the last 5 to 10 years that are like, oh shit, my dollar is now worth a lot less than it was when I retired. And I'm not going to make it that long. So, you know,
getting that extra job outside of retirement because retirement wasn't enough, you know, and they're 65, 70 years old, 75, 80. Keith works with somebody that's in his 80s. He's still working as a mechanic, you know.
There are some folks, though, that already were the type of people that were going to work till they die anyways.
Right? 100%.
There are those type of personalities that are that way anyways, but
like I said, just hanging out on the golf course, actually, that sounds like, that doesn't sound fun. I mean, So I do want to touch on before, because we're at an hour, but you know, because we're going into this season and the state convention is around the corner in March. March 28th and 29th in Owatonna. Get your tickets, lpmn.org. They're $95 right now for a ticket, but they'll be $140 at the door. So it's really beneficial to get it in advance, not wait to be able to get them at the door. But one of the things that we're going to be doing at the state convention is endorsing candidates. So that's this year. And so if you want to do that in person, March 28th and 29th in Owatonna, Minnesota. We do have actually, we have quite a few candidates this year for a variety of races. We have your race, TJ, House Representative. We have an auditor candidate, Secretary of State. We might have a Senate or U.S. Senate candidate, but that person hasn't become public yet. So anyways, there's a variety of other things. And one of the things that we've talked about as a party of doing, and not just our party, but not all of them, but a lot of minor parties in Minnesota have actually been working together this time around. And so that's something that I'm kind of excited about, because it doesn't make any sense for us to fight over the scraps that the major parties are, they don't even care about. So working with other minor parties to help, promote each other, because we're all in the trenches, like the minor parties. We're all in the trenches together. So doing what we can to support each other, regardless of what the party is under. Third party candidates are just, you guys are my people. So doing what we can for each other. But so we're going to have not just libertarians at our state convention. That's kind of where I'm going with that. But we're going to have also independent candidates that will be there to talk. There will be a forum for asking questions. Nothing, pre-planned and, polished. So come and ask whatever you want. Ask those questions, talk to people, get to know the candidates, because then after state convention, we have to go into petitioning. Petitioning's where it's the make it or break it for us as not major party candidates. So we only have 2 weeks starting, I think it's middle of May 19th. Is that right?
I should know this, but I think it's later than that because it goes into June.
I don't know. It's 2 weeks in May. It starts on a Tuesday. And then we only have those 2 weeks to collect all the signatures that we need to be able to get on the ballot. And if we don't collect signatures, don't do the petitions, it doesn't matter what the endorsement was at the state convention, we are not on the ballot in November. And we will not be doing any campaigning. So that's really what we need help with this time around. Come to the state convention, meet, get to know people, help us out. If you have a set of skills that you want to share and you want to utilize to help, get the word out in the training, because big part of the Libertarian Party, because our principles are kind of counterculture, is, teaching and, spreading the message, basically, spreading something alternative that most people have never even considered. So that's, if you have skills and you really want to do something, here's something you can do. So lpmn.org, you can get tickets for our state convention, Owatonna, Minnesota, info@lpmn.org. Reach out, ask questions, get in touch with one of us. Call Rebecca. My name's right. Well, it was right down there until the ticker, So, or you can look me up on Facebook. Yeah, my name's, it's been up there most of this time though. And I'm the chair of the state party. So I know a little bit about what's going on most of the time. And so TJ knows a lot, and we're, pulling Jeremy in too. So he's also involved. And, I think that this coming election cycle is an opportunity. Because like I said, I think that the Republicans are they don't know it yet because their heads are in the sand, as always. But I predict, unless something changes, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
But that also gives us a chance to fill in where they have dropped the ball, because they don't deserve their seat at the table that they've, they're keeping for themselves. So,
you know what? Real quick, the Democrats don't either. You know what? The committee hearing I went to yesterday, they're trying to ban 10-round magazines and on rifle and unconstitutional entering your home. So neither of these parties are worth a dang. And the Republicans have some good things to them, but then they flip flop on the wrong things, and so it's just like all over it.
Yeah. Well, honestly, what's his name? Roe
O'Connor?
that did it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've actually been a little impressed with him lately.
Yeah, but he's still
sure
kind of a free healthcare kind of guy, right?
Well, no doubt. I'm sure we're going to disagree on economics and on some of these big things, right? But I don't necessarily judge a person 100% by their economics. I do judge them by their character. Sure. And so somebody who's going to stand firm on big issues like this, that's somebody that I can work with, even 100%. If maybe they wrongly believe that socialism is the answer. I'm just throwing it out there. So that's where we're at. That's the conditions we have to work with, and we're going to do the best we can. But if you want to be part of this, reach out. We're taking applications.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. So next week? Probably next week.
We gotta talk a lot more about what's happened in the Minnesota session, because they're trying to pull a lot of rugs, man, and implement more bureaucracy because their other bureaucracy failed. So we'll talk about it next week.
Yep. And we'll see you guys later. LP Mindauer, go buy tickets. Owatonna, March 28th.